right, it's 8:30, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening and welcome to our Aromatherapy December virtual class. The theme for tonight is winter self-care. So we're going to talk about how we can use essential oils to help us remember that self-care is so important during the craziness of the holidays. So I'll start with a quick introduction to myself. My name is Betsy Miller. I'm an aromatherapist with Cacia. I'm also an herbalist with the frontier side of the business, the bulk herb side. And I've been working with Cacia for about 7 years now as an aromatherapy educator. My background is in herbal medicine. I have a master's degree in clinical herbal medicine, and I love all things plants and product making, and especially self-care. I'm also a mom. I have 2 little children. I have a 4-year-old boy and an 18-month-old boy. And remembering self-care as a mom is so hard. I mean, it shouldn't be, we shouldn't count taking a shower every day as self-care. That should be just basic hygiene, right? Remembering self-care during the holidays when I'm trying to remember, like, did I get the gift cards for my kids' daycare providers? Did I, are we packed and ready for wherever we're going? Do I have gifts for X, Y, and Z? Have I gone to the grocery store and gotten what I need? Do the puff pastries I got at Trader Joe's look handmade enough to take to the recital tomorrow? All the things I'm trying to manage as a working mom. And I totally forget self-care, especially this time of year. So the recipes that we're going to focus on tonight are some of the ways that I remind myself that my own well-being is a priority too. And it's not always easy. But Cacia, we are based in Iowa. I'm here in Northern Virginia, so I educate remotely for Cacia. And Cacia is part of Frontier Co-op. So I like to say that Frontier Co-op is our mothership. And then under Frontier Co-op, we have Cacia, Simply Organic. They do the amazing like vanilla extract and taco seasonings, and Plant Boss, which is new to the Frontier family. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first recipe that we're going to make tonight is a winter skin balm. And the skincare for me is such an important part of my self-care. I'm in my mid-30s and I have always had good skin my entire life. And then in the last 3 years, I've noticed that in the winters, especially, my skin is starting to get so much more dry, especially on my hands. I spend a lot of time outside, walking my dogs, playing with my kids. I'm also starting to notice, more effects of the winter, especially on my face and how my face feels. So I've really started to get into my new skincare routine of making sure that I'm applying my serum at night that I make. I love my serum recipe that I do with a blend of jojoba oil and argan oil, and I love neroli and geranium in there for skincare, a little bit of frankincense as well. And I'm very much mindful of putting on, before I go to bed, some kind of balm on my hands, so that I'm helping to mitigate the effects of how much time I spend out in the cold without gloves, which is not a smart choice, but it happens. So this is one of my favorite balm recipes. And it features some of the essential oils that I find this time of year are just so grounding and calming and reminding myself of my inner resiliency. So this recipe is a really nice blend of like actual just basic skincare, but also the aromatherapeutic benefit of these calming, relaxing, and grounding oils. So what we're going to do, I'm going to show you how to make the recipe. While the ingredients are melting together in my happy little double boiler over here, we're going to bop over to the next recipe. And then at the end, we'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like when everything's all melted together and we put it into our jar. So for our winter skin balm, we are going to use 3 ounces of our ready-to-use frankincense oil. This ready-to-use line, I love this line. It comes with the essential oil already diluted in the carrier oil, so it's ready to go on your body right out of the bottle. Essential oils that come in the pretty little bottles like this always need to be diluted. So this is a great way to be able to use frankincense right away. This is going to be what we call our base oil or our carrier oil for the recipe. And frankincense is just so like grounding and meditative. And for me, it just kind of reminds me to like take a step back from the chaos happening around me right now and do my deep breathing. I do, I'm very outdoors, nature-based. I love plants, everything plants. So I do a little meditation where I visualize that I have roots growing from the bottoms of my feet and grounding me to the earth when I feel, when one child is screaming, the other one is throwing something against the wall, the house feels like it's falling apart, I haven't made dinner yet, and I need a me moment. Frankincense helps me find that. So we're going to do 3 ounces of frankincense, ready to use oil. So it's most of the bottle. The bottle is 4 ounces. We're going to put that in our double boiler. So this is kind of a handmade double boiler. I'll show you what I did here. I just took a glass Pyrex dish and I have it resting in a metal pot. All right. Then we are going to add in a 1/2 ounce of beeswax. And I like using these little beeswax pellets. I get these from Frontier Co-op. You can get beeswax that comes in like the little hexagon shaped blocks or the even bigger blocks. The beads I find are just so much easier to work with because they're easier to measure the small amounts. Like let's say your recipe, you needed 3/4 of an ounce. It's much easier to measure those fractions. They also melt so much faster than when you're dealing with the big beeswax blocks. Also, when I was in high school, I ruined my mom's best kitchen knife trying to shave a block of beeswax, and that forever traumatized me to beeswax blocks. Next, we're going to use a 1/2 ounce of Aromatherapy shea butter, and I just, shea butter you can use right out of the jar. Just, get a little bit on your hand and it really melts like right as you're rubbing it into your hand. The reason I love butters for balm recipes is that they really help hold the moisture into your skin. You can totally just do an oil and beeswax. That's technically a salve, not a balm. A balm has the butter in it. You can use cocoa butter if you prefer cocoa butter. I just adore shea butter. And like, even just looking at that, like I put a little bit of shea butter on the side of my hand where I get the most dry and cracked skin. It looks like so different from the hand that's now very dry and not fun to look at. So and it feels so silky and soft. I love it. So we're going to put in our 1/2 ounce, I measured it out ahead of time, of shea butter. It's very easy to scoop out of the jar. We do get questions a lot about the cocoa butter and why it's so hard to scoop the cocoa butter out of the jar. The cocoa butter, the Aromatherapy cocoa butter, is unrefined. And the best way to get it out is if you have a sharp paring knife and you basically stick the paring knife into the little container of cocoa butter and press down, stick it in at another angle so you're making a triangle, press down, and then you can lift a block of the cocoa butter out of that jar. So this is what we're going to do to get started, is just the frankincense ready to use oil, the beeswax, and the shea butter. I'm going to turn up the heat on this a little bit. We want to let it melt over medium or medium low. Normally I do like letting it melt over lower temperatures. For the sake of time tonight, I'm turning it up to medium to accelerate the melting time, but to preserve the integrity, especially of the frankincense ready to use oil. Essential oils, when they're still inside the plants, we call them volatile oils because they are not, they're delicate, they're fragile, and exposing them to heat can cause them to dissipate or change their molecular structure. So when we're making these products to preserve the integrity of those volatile oils, we want to keep everything at a low heat. So you'll see I'm not adding our other 2 essential oils to the recipe yet. I'm going to wait and add those directly to my jar before pouring the rest of the blend on top of it. And then I'll give it a stir to make sure everything is fully integrated. So again, normally I would make sure this melts over low heat, especially to preserve the integrity of the frankincense in here. For the sake of time this evening, I am melting it over a medium to, if it takes a little bit longer, I'll switch it up to medium high just so you guys can see what the final product will look like. So we're going to transition to our roll-on recipe, and then I'm going to go ahead and switch that to medium high. And then we'll come back to this once it's all melted together. And I'll talk a little bit about the other essential oils we're going to use for that recipe. So we're going to go ahead, and our next recipe is called our Harmonious Travel Roll-On. I'm very fortunate this year that we are not doing a lot of travel. I'm going to go ahead and just get the roll-on top out of my roll-on bottle. The problem with putting the shea butter on ahead of time is that my hands are a little slippery. There we go. So I'm not doing a whole lot of travel this year for the holidays. I am very, very lucky in that sense. We're just going down to, we have my in-laws live in southeastern Virginia on one of the tributaries of the Chesapeake. So we're going down there just for a couple of days after Christmas to see my in-laws. But for the most part, we're going to be homebound, and I'm very lucky. But for people who do a lot of travel over the holidays, remembering self-care can be so hard. If nutrition is important to you and movement, keeping up with those while you're on the road. I used to travel pre-pandemic. I traveled a lot for my education role with Cacia. Oh, good, that's melting, nice. I can actually turn that back down to medium or medium low. So I used to travel a lot, and it's very hard to keep up with my established self-care practices that make me feel good. For me, that is nutrition, it's movement, it's quiet time for myself. It's honestly being able to sit in the morning and drink my coffee before my kids get up. When I'm on the road, aromatherapy is a huge, huge part of me being able to maintain my self-care and my relaxation, because I'm a homebody. I'm realizing that more and more as I grow up. I'm a homebody. I love being at home. And when I'm outside of my home, I get a little bit more stressed out because I can't self-regulate as well. And especially when I have small children who cannot self-regulate at all. So having some form of aromatherapy to take with us through the holidays this year, if you're traveling, can really help you maintain that like center, self-care, and peace of mind when everything around you feels like chaos. So this is going to be a blend of sweet peppermint, which it just embodies the holiday season. It smells like a candy cane. It's just so happy. We get a lot of questions asking what the difference is between our peppermint essential oil and our sweet peppermint essential oil. They both come from the same plant, Mentha piperita. The difference is sweet peppermint is actually distilled twice, where regular peppermint is only distilled once. The reason we distill sweet peppermint twice is that it brings out the sweeter aroma associated with the plant instead of the grassier aroma. So if you get our regular peppermint, it smells a lot more herbaceous and grassy. They're both top notes, but the sweet peppermint just smells so much more like what we'd expect from a candy cane, essentially. So we are going to do 2 drops of sweet peppermint in our roll-on. 1, 2. Excellent. Put my lid back on. And then we're going to do 2 drops of geranium. And geranium, the descriptor we have on it is balancing. And I think that's a perfect way to think of geranium. It's a mentally and emotionally balancing essential oil. It's much heavier than sweet peppermint. It's more of a middle to base note. And it's so incredibly grounding, similar to the grounding feeling I get with frankincense. Some people find that geranium is an acquired aroma because it is a very heavy, almost resinous oil. So you can always substitute, and if you don't want geranium, you can substitute lavender, you can substitute bergamot, you can even substitute sweet orange, any of the essential oils that instill a sense of peace and calm. So for us, we're going to do 2 drops of geranium. 1, 2, our lovely balancing essential oil. Put my lid back on. And then we are going to fill it up with our fractionated coconut oil. I love the fractionated coconut oil. Fun fact about coconut oil, out of all of our carrier oils, coconut oil in general, regular or fractionated, launders out of clothing so much more easily than any of the other carrier oils. So if you're like me and when you're making products, you're in the kitchen and you look more like the Swedish chef than a professional, and you spill oil all over yourself, coconut oil will launder out of your clothing so easily. And that's how you make a roll-on. And then you just apply it to your pulse points, places where you have the highest rate of absorption. So we can do temples, we can do behind the ears, we can do on our wrists. Oh, and the balance of the sweet peppermint and the geranium is so wonderful. I love this so much. I wish when we invent smell-o-vision, you guys will be the first to know, because I'll be able to literally pass this through the screen and you can smell how wonderful it is. I actually like to put just a little dab under my nose so I get that constant wonderful aromatherapy. So that's how we, and they're so easy. If you're flying, these can go with you in your carry-on because it's only 0.31 fluid ounces. So, you know, something like our balm in a 4-ounce jar, unfortunately, can't go with you in a carry-on, but a roll-on like this, you get travel anxiety, perfect to take with you on the airplane because it can fit right in your pocket or right in your bag. And that's how we do our harmonious travel roll-on. I'm just going to check in on our recipe here. One of my favorite tools for making topical products is a chopstick. And so whenever we get Chinese food, I always save the chopsticks because I use them so much when I'm making products. Because the wood, you know, it doesn't melt. I'm not putting plastic in my hot products. I'm, you know, a big fan of avoiding plastic at all costs. I'm just going to stir it up. It's almost melted. Great. So while we give that another moment to come together, the last recipe we're going to talk about this evening is our mulled cider diffusion. And even though this is very much like an autumnal blend, there's something for me in the winter. We just, in Virginia, we had our first, you know, ice storm winter weather. It ended up really just where I am being just rain. But farther out in parts of Virginia, there actually was ice. So I had this mulled cider diffusion going all day long because it is so, it's cozy. We're having my mother and my mother-in-law over tomorrow night. My 4-year-old has his winter recital tomorrow, and they're both coming and staying here. So my house is somewhat clean, and I sometimes on on edge when I'm the hostess. And having an essential oil blend that is so cozy and comforting makes me feel more at ease in my own home when I feel like I have to be on all the time. Like, do you have enough water? Do you need coffee? This, that, the other thing. And having this mulled cider diffusion, which is cassia and clove and sweet orange, is just such, it creates this like, almost like winter wonderland feeling of, you know, cold and windy outside and cozy and snug inside. And I feel just more at peace and relaxed in my own space. So the diffusion is what I have going in here. I'll bring the essential oils to show you. So it is 1 drop of clove bud essential oil, which is just, we have it on the label here. It's comforting. Clove is like, it makes me think of, you know, cuddling up on the couch with gingerbread cookies and hot chai. It is comforting. Cassia, encouraging. And sweet orange, which is just so happy. I like it. It is the happiness essential oil. I adore sweet orange. Even just, you know, wafting it under my nose, I can't not smile when I smell sweet orange. And the 3 together create this like mulled cider. I actually think it's more resonant of a good chai aroma that just, you know, permeates the house and again helps me feel cozy and at peace in my own space. So you operate your diffuser based on its instructions. With this one, it's a cool mist diffuser, which I love cool mist diffusers because again, heat changes the aroma profile, compromises the integrity of the essential oils. With this one, we just add the drops to water, push the on button. It's fun because it changes colors. You can have it either rotate colors or you can find the color that you like. I really like that one. That's like an ice lavender color. Ooh, pretty pink. Let's stick with that one. That's more of the ice lavender. My kids love the changing color button. So that's my favorite wintertime diffusion. I actually start in the fall, carry it all through the winter. until spring when I'm ready for more of my dominant florals and citruses and even tea tree in the spring for that purifying cleansing effect. Okay, let's go ahead and come back to our balm recipe. So I'm going to hold this up for you guys. There we go. And you can see how everything has fully melted. So I'm just going to let that come off the heat for a second. And we'll talk about the essential oils that we're going to add. So we are going to do lavender and Atlas cedarwood. Lavender, we joke at Aromatherapy that lavender is like the gateway essential oil, that everyone knows lavender, everyone's familiar with lavender. But when you're trying to think of a recipe for something to keep you calm, you can't go wrong with lavender. You can absolutely substitute bergamot in this recipe, even sweet orange, if you want something a little bit different in terms of the aroma note. But lavender is such a beautiful floral middle note for this, and it just makes me feel peaceful when I smell it. I also love lavender for skincare. It is incredibly soothing for the type of dry winter skin that I especially get this time of year. I set up my garage as like a home gym, but it's not insulated and I don't have a space heater. So I've been working out in my garage in like 30-degree weather, and my hands are paying the price because my gloves, even though I have like lifting gloves, they don't protect my hands very much from the temperature. So I've been doing lots and lots of balm application throughout the day. And it's really like, I can totally see a difference from like a week ago, what my hands looked like to today. So we're going to do 36 drops of lavender, and I'm actually just going to go ahead and put it right in my jar. You guys can count with me or not. It's up to you. Almost there. Perfect. And then Atlas cedarwood. This is one that a lot of people aren't familiar with. It's one that's not used as often, I think. It's such an incredibly centering essential oil. And for me, it embodies winter. It's when you go walking, like imagine hiking through the woods. I went to UVM, like I mentioned, for college. And I either mentioned that in this class or another one. And I did a lot of hiking in the winter, and just hiking through the evergreen forests in the middle of winter where it's cold and you're brushing past branches and releasing those amazing volatile oils from the evergreen trees. Atlas cedarwood just embodies that. It makes me feel like I am walking through a just amazingly beautiful evergreen forest. And we're going to do 12 drops of this, and it blends so well with lavender. Perfect. And then last but not least, we're going to go ahead and pour our salve into our jar. And I'm going to give it a stir to make sure those essential oils are wonderfully blended in there. And then all you have to do is put it somewhere safe. Oh, that smells so nice. I love that blend. Put it somewhere safe and let it cool. You can put the lid on while it's cooling, just to make sure that no little dust particles get in there, nothing settles on the surface. If you want to accelerate the cooling, you can stick it in the fridge, but you don't have to. It'll cool perfectly well by itself in its jar. And then as needed, you just scoop a little bit out, apply it to your hands or wherever on your body you need a little bit of skin soothing and the aromatherapy benefit of just calming and centering amidst the chaos. It's why I love skincare products so much, because you get the skin benefits and the aromatherapy benefits all in one. So those are the 3 recipes that we have for you all this evening. We have some really fun stuff coming up. So we are bringing back our Facebook Lives. We're going to be doing them the first and the third weeks of every month. Elena and I will be alternating doing those, just like we alternate doing the virtual classes on Thursday evenings. So we're going to be doing them again the first and the third Wednesdays of the month, and then our virtual classes will remain Thursdays in the evening. So follow us on Facebook to see what we've got going on with our Facebook Lives. I'll be doing one next week to focus on our solstice. Like, I am so excited. It is almost the solstice. I love the winter solstice because that means we're going to start emerging from the darkness of winter and back into the light and the spring, and warmth is going to return to the world. I know what, technically it means, well, not technically, it means we're only at the halfway point, but for me, it's glass half or glass half full. We're leaving glass half empty, going back to glass half full. Because I'm one of those people that I saw a really funny meme yesterday that said there's 2 kinds of people in the winter. There's, the Elsa people who say the cold doesn't bother me anyway. And then there's me, who's like the little puppy from the 101 Dalmatians, where it's like my nose is froze, my tail is froze, my ears is froze, and that's me. I am ready for warmth and daylight. So in this Facebook Live next week, I'll be talking about really the sacred nature of the winter solstice and how we can create ritual with essential oils like our evergreens and our resins. Especially, we'll talk about Atlas cedarwood again. We'll talk about frankincense and myrrh and cypress. A lot of our resinous evergreen, like pure, true, deep winter essential oils that we can create this magical ritual around the solstice to thank the winter for being here and then usher it on its way. And then Elena will be doing our next virtual class in January, and we're going to be focusing on how we can use essential oils to set intentions, because with the new year, there's so much of that like new year, new you kind of vibe. And that's great, for some people. And for some of us, it's like, I just, enough with that. How do I welcome in a new year of mindfulness and intention that's not necessarily focused on how I look or how I'm acting, just like what energy do I want to create for this next year? So Elaine is going to be teaching that class for us, and that is going to be January 12th. So again, setting New Year's intentions and how to reinforce those intentions with aromatherapy. So that is all I have for you all this evening. We have plenty of time for Q&A. So please feel free to type your questions into the chat box, and I can start chiming in on some of the questions as well. I know Elena's been doing a fantastic job of monitoring the chat box, which we greatly appreciate. So yeah, we have plenty of time to take your questions this evening.
I think there was a question about your serum.
Oh, a question about the skin serum I mentioned? Sure, I can definitely talk about that. So my skin, I tend to be combination skin. So I can run oily or dry, depending on the season, honestly, depending on my diet, how well my nutrition is going. So I love jojoba for my face. It is balancing. It's out of all the oils, it most closely resembles the sebum produced by our skin, because it's not actually an oil, it's a liquid wax. It also, because it's a liquid wax, has an indefinite shelf life. So it adds shelf life and shelf stability to any product that you make. So my skin tolerates jojoba very well. It's low comedogenic, which means it's going to be absorbed quickly. It's not going to leave a greasy feel. And I blend that 50-50 with argan oil. I especially do argan in the winter. In the summer, sometimes I switch to rosehip because it feels a little bit lighter than argan. But the essential oils that I do are neroli. I just adore neroli for skincare. It is, I would say, in my top 3 facial care essential oils. So I do neroli. I really love helichrysum, but sometimes that, for some people, the aroma is a little hard because it's very strong and very floral. And then I do frankincense as well. And what I'll do is after I wash my face, I do just 5 or 6 drops of that serum and apply it to damp skin. And then I have my jade roller, and I love my jade roller. So this is my, I'm in my mid 30s, and I'm for the first time in my life, not taking healthy, good skin for granted, because I'm starting to notice the changes, and I'm getting really into my skincare routine to keep my skin healthy and happy. And that serum just is my favorite. Oh, great question. How many drops of oils in the serum? Fantastic question. So for whole body application, we recommend anywhere from a 2 to 3% dilution. For faces, we recommend anywhere from a 0.5 to a 1% dilution. So I do a total of 12 drops in 1 ounce of the carrier. So I'll do a 1/2 ounce of the jojoba, a 1/2 ounce of either the argan or the rose hip, and then 12 total drops of my essential oils. So if I'm just doing neroli and frankincense, it'll be 6 and 6 of that. If I'm adding something else in there, for whatever my skin needs at the time, I'll, adjust the drops accordingly so that it's 12 total drops per ounce. Excellent question.
Looks like we have a couple questions. Would you share a favorite sanitizer spray and a favorite blend to put into the diffuser to help boost your mood and wake you up?
Great questions. Okay. For a hand sanitizer recipe, we actually have a couple on the Aromatherapy website. We also sell hand sanitizer sprays through the Aromatherapy website. So some of my favorite essential oils for making hand sanitizer, I love Manuka. So a lot of people talk about tea tree, and tea tree can have a very like astringent aroma that can be a lot sometimes. So I'll do Manuka as the base. It has all the same purifying properties that we associate with tea tree, but it to me has much more of like a woody, almost like herbaceous aroma, instead of like the astringent kind of like harsh aroma of tea tree. So I love Manuka. And then any of the citruses are incredibly purifying, especially like lemon and grapefruit, sweet orange. So those combinations work really well. Some of our other very purifying essential oils are thyme, but I don't particularly love walking around smelling like pizza or spaghetti sauce. So I don't use thyme in my hand sanitizing recipes. I do use it in my kitchen cleaners, but not in my hand sanitizers. Elena, what was the second part of that question? Hand sanitizer and what?
Just to wake you up, which
Oh, to wake us
that was
up. Okay,
the
in the morning
citrus.
for diffusion. Diffusion, yes.
Yes.
Peppermint is such a wonderful, invigorating, stimulating essential oil first thing in the morning. That's why I actually love doing either the peppermint or the eucalyptus shower salts when I take a shower in the morning. It really helps get me like going for the day. But peppermint, sweet peppermint, and orange, like anything citrus is really uplifting. Bergamot is wonderful. Sweet orange, lemon. I'm on a huge tangerine kick right now. I don't know why, but like tangerine is my thing right now. Really just any of the citruses combined with either peppermint and surprisingly lavender. Like if we think about the idea of like either filling our gas tank or just pushing the pedal down harder for energy, we want to do both, right? Like coffee helps us push the pedal down harder, but good nutrition helps fill the gas tank. So that builds true energy. And I think about that with essential oils too, that we want to think about essential oils that are going to calm us, because when we feel calm, we're able to tap into our true energy instead of like our wild, hectic energy. So combining any of those like mood uplifting essential oils with something calming and grounding, like a lavender or a frankincense, is a really nice way to start the day. You guys are asking great questions tonight.
Yes, they are. Let's see. We have a couple more too.
Okay, perfect.
Let me scroll back up to that. So Diana would love some immune support self-care. She teaches toddlers.
Oof,
And
little petri dishes.
yes, exactly. So you're well versed with that.
Yes. I have a 4-year-old and an 18-month-old, and it seems like for the last at least 6 months, one or the other is always sick. And then subsequently, we are sick. I can't say enough for just the pillars of self-care. So essential oils are incredible. Diffusing or purifying essential oils in the airspace like tea tree and manuka and lemon, the citruses can help protect your airspace. But essential oils are only part of the picture, right? They're part of what I like to think of as the wellness wheel. And the wellness wheel encompasses good nutrition. So especially this time of year, it's so hard to limit sugar, but sugar suppresses our immune system functioning. So limiting sugar, making sure we're getting adequate sleep, which is often very challenging. So good nutrition, adequate sleep, practicing stress management techniques with deep breathing and essential oils. All of those things are going to build resiliency. And building resiliency is the key to protecting our immune system. And then basic hygiene, right? Making sure we're washing our hands, using our hand sanitizers. I do both. I wash my hands and then use my hand sanitizers, especially when I do have to venture out and about into the big scary world out there. Adequate sleep, who gets that? That's a great question. I don't know. There are people out there that sleep, and it boggles the mind. I used to sleep. I miss sleep. One day I might sleep again. Who knows? I have 2 kids. I don't sleep. So I focus on nutrition. I focus on getting, as healthy foods as I can, staying active, getting movement. I don't like using the word exercise because I feel like exercise implies obligation and movement implies possibility. I can go for a walk today. I can do yoga. I can bench press in my garage. I can lay on the floor and roll around because my back hurts. I can move. So however I move is beneficial to my body. How about we do 1 or 2 more questions, and Elena, and then we will say goodnight to everyone for the evening and see you all next week for the Facebook Live, or see you next year for our next virtual class with Elena.
Yeah. Let's see. We have one question about suggestions for dry heels in the winter.
Yep. So lathering the balm on the dry heels and then putting a sock on and wearing, some kind of cozy winter sock to bed, but lather the balm on. You can even saran wrap it if you've got really cracked dry heels. Adding castor oil is also super helpful. Castor oil and sesame oil are incredibly nourishing. So I would think about castor oil and sesame oil application for the feet as well. Well, thank you all so much for joining us this evening. I had a wonderful time. I love when you ask such amazing questions. It is so much fun for me. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about some winter self-care, and I hope you're able to practice some of this self-care during the holidays to keep yourself calm and peaceful. And, remember that your self-care is just as much of a priority as taking care of everyone else in your life. I know it's hard to remember that at times, but it is so true. So I hope to see you all next week for our Facebook Live. I hope to see you all next month for our intention setting class with Elena. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season, and we will see you in the new year. Good night, everybody.